Yeah, it's a good question. So I'd say 10 years ago, I would have been a real gold bug, even though I was still into Bitcoin. I was still getting into Bitcoin and I was becoming familiar with Bitcoin. At that time, I was still pretty much a gold bug, and Bitcoin was still this very experimental, interesting thing that is not gold, obviously, and gold is the real deal. So I would have been a lot more surprised 10 years ago than I am now. But since the last 10 years, gold's almost practically been flat since 2011, just 13 years. And so the dollar has been devalued massively. So if you look at the prices of things, I think my favorite measure of price increases is to look at the price of your dream house. Figure out where you want to live, the kind of house you want to live in what neighborhood, in what city. And think about what's happening to the price of that house over time. I think that's the most meaningful measure of price increases for you individually, because your house is probably going to be the single biggest expense that you will incur in your life. And so if you're saving up for a house of your dreams, the price of that house is going to be going up and increasing. So gold has not kept up with that, and I just think, I've come to more and more understand why that happens, and I think the fiat standard is the culmination of my ideas of why gold has failed to take off. And I would say the answer ultimately comes down to the fact that there is no independent market for the clearance of gold internationally outside of banks and central banks and the fiat mafia. And so the fiat mafia has essentially succeeded in neutering gold's monetary role, because they won't let you set up a gold central bank and a gold clearance mechanism. You can't. I mean, you can't just say we're going to set up a new bank in Canada that doesn't deal with any of the Canadian government's money, and we're just going to use gold and we're going to ship gold to other countries and trade with them, and anybody's free to join us and do this. You cannot do that, and people who have tried to do that have no fun stories to report on what happened to them. So you can stop the clearance of gold, and then if you do that, gold stops working as money, because in this kind of world, money needs to travel, and it needs to travel very fast because goods are traveling really fast. And so gold just can't keep up because governments neuter it. And so I think it's it sucks, because it would be better if we were on a gold standard than on a fiat standard, but it's why we have Bitcoin. That's why Bitcoin is, in my opinion, such a big deal, because it fixes that flaw. Because you can still have a market for clearance of Bitcoin with, even if it was only just 500,000 transactions a day, you can still have 500,000 transactions a day, whether governments want it or not, whether governments legalize it or not. It can still continue to operate, and people can run it from all over the world. So I think that's why Bitcoin can monetize and capture all of this pent-up monetary demand, which gold cannot do. And I think the second part of it is that gold is already a $10 trillion or so market. So even if gold does become the world money, it's going to do what, a 5x, 10x? I mean, that's kind of play for Bitcoin. And Bitcoin's going from zero to becoming the world money is going to involve billions of X's along the way. And we've already had most of these, but there's still a lot more left than gold. So that creates more of an incentive for people to buy into Bitcoin rather than into gold, because the upside is potentially much larger. So I think because of that, because of those two reasons, I think it's becoming less and less surprising